Over 60? Revealed. 3 hidden vegetables to avoid, 3 amazing must-eats for life-changing health. Martha sat in her cozy chair, flipping through the pages of a health magazine, her heart racing. The vibrant colors of the photos jumped out, but they were nothing compared to the thunderous headline. She read it again. This time, the words sank in. What if those beloved root vegetables she had despised as a child suddenly turned against her? Fear clawed at her chest. Martha was a lively 63-year-old librarian, known for her warmth and her knack for making everyone feel special. But even the most robust gardener could be uprooted by a health scare. Mom. Her eldest son, Jacob, burst through the door, spilling the news with excitement unbefitting a man facing the precarious world of a struggling artist. Did you hear? I landed a gallery showing. I'm finally on my way. Martha's heart swelled with pride, momentarily pushing away her worries. Yet, as she embraced Jacob, she could feel the tightening in her chest again. The magazine lay open on the table, taunting her. How could she rejoice? Her mind raced with the implications of the doctor's call. Mom, came Sarah's voice from the kitchen. The aroma of battered fried chicken wafted into the living room as her youngest daughter entered, her eyes flickering with exhaustion. A single mother juggling too much, Sarah often looked as if she was carrying the weight of the world. You okay? Martha nodded, unwilling to burden her children with her fears. They deserved joy, not the shadow of their mother's potential fragility. But the seeds of worry had been planted, bringing with them a deadly germ of conflict. As the family gathered around the dinner table, laughter bubbled, but unspoken tensions crackled like static in the air. Martha turned the conversation to her health news, hoping to steer it in a positive direction. I was reading about nutrition and nutrition. Really, Mom? You're going to let a few articles dictate what you eat? Jacob scoffed. The room tensed up, a palpable shift in the air. Little did you know, Sarah interjected, her voice laced with fragility. There's nothing more comforting than your fried chicken recipe. The chatter escalated, each child interpreting Martha's situation through their unique lens. Tradition against trend, comfort against caution. Martha felt their hurt, the misunderstandings bubbling closer to the surface, each word more painful than the next. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Martha sifted through her research between bites of food, she found treasures among the articles. 3 miraculous vegetables. The sparkle returned to her eyes, lighting up her once-dimmed spirit. But the revelation sparked another wave of tension. Mom, we can't just throw away years of recipes. Jacob shouted, the echo of old wounds surfacing. The kitchen felt smaller as awkwardness deepened. Martha's heart ached at the sight of her family's familiar smiles turned uncertain. Would her quest for health pull them apart? This family dinner, meant to bring joy, fast slid into chaos. Martha sensed an impending breakthrough, but knew they were teetering on the edge. Could they reconcile the deep chasms, their contradictory desires and unspoken grievances? Tension simmered around the table, leaving them all anxious for clarity. The ingredients of healing were at their fingertips, but it remained uncertain whether they would mix well together. The sound of cutlery clattering against plates drowned out the silence that had settled over the table. Martha felt the weight of it all. She glanced at each of her children, their faces marked with frustration or concern, but also love. A flicker of resolve ignited within her. She wouldn't let fear take hold of their family. Jacob, I'm not trying to dismiss our family traditions, Martha began, her voice steady, but I want to be around for you both. For all of us. Jacob opened his mouth to speak, but paused, his brow furrowing as he glanced at Sarah, who seemed caught in her thoughts. Julia's soft laughter from the other room reminded them of the joy that family could bring, yet it felt miles away in that moment. Mom, we respect that you want to be healthy, but it feels like you're rejecting what's always been our comfort food, Jacob said, the edge in his tone softening. What if we find a way to blend the old and the new? Sarah suggested, breaking her silence. What if? Instead of getting rid of your recipes, we try to make them healthier. Experiment a bit? Martha felt a breath of fresh air sweep through. Could it be that simple? Like, Jacob chimed in, his gestures animated. We could use those amazing kinds of vegetables you read about. What were they called again? With newfound enthusiasm, Martha opened the magazine, flipping through the pages until she found the section. Here, cauliflower, sweet potatoes, and beets. They can replace so many things and give us flavor, plus all that health boost. Okay, let us try roasted sweet potato fries instead of regular ones, Sarah proposed while her eyes lit up. We could do a mash with cauliflower, too. My kids would love that. Martha felt a warmth spread through her heart. Laughter returned to the room as ideas flowed. With each new suggestion, her family united, materializing a plan that wove in their past with the present. Mom, you've always been the heart of this family, Jacob said, gently. Maybe now we can forge new traditions together? Yes. New recipes, new laughs, Sarah added, the exhaustion lifting from her shoulders. Suddenly, the door burst open, and their youngest daughter Julia dashed in, still catching her breath. I heard you talking about new food. Can I help? I love cooking with you. Martha's heart danced as she looked around the table. They were setting the stage for something fresh, something together. It was an unexpected twist to their evening, yet it felt right, a reminder of their bond as a family. As they started to brainstorm a week's worth of meals, Martha decided to once again embrace change. She had always held the tradition close, and maybe that didn't have to mean shutting the door on new possibilities. She could cultivate health and preserve joy at the same time. But as excitement buzzed, a nagging thought drifted back the doctor's call. The things she hadn't yet shared, the very real shadows lurking in her mind. Martha paused, her smile fading just for a moment. Would these changes be enough to protect her, to protect them all? Tension lurked beneath the laughter. Unknowingly, they were threading a delicate line between joy and fear. Can I tell you something important too? Martha finally asked, her voice quiet. The room stilled as her family turned toward her, sensing the shift. What is it, Mom? Jacob inquired, concern threading through his voice. She inhaled deeply, feeling every gaze upon her as she prepared to lift the weight of the truth. The bold plan to reinvent their meals faded as the stakes rose. I got a call from the doctor today. What would this revelation mean for their freshly renewed bond? The room thickened with a weight that felt almost tangible. Martha's heart raced beneath the steady gaze of her children. The vibrant chatter and laughter seemed to fade, replaced by an echoing silence that amplified the truth she was about to share. Mom, what did the doctor say? Sarah leaned forward, her brow furrowed with concern. Martha took a deep breath, steadying herself against the wave of emotions that crashed over her. I received some test results. The words hung suspended in the air, heavy and foreboding. Jacob's expression shifted, the playful glint momentarily lost. Results? Are they bad? Not necessarily bad. She hesitated, measuring her words carefully. But there's a risk factor. Something I need to address. Julia's innocent curiosity seemed to fade as she sensed the shift. What does that mean? It means, Martha began slowly, that I need to make some changes in my lifestyle. My diet, my activity levels, my health is at stake. The room, once filled with vibrant ideas about food and laughter, now held an unfamiliar chill. Martha watched the realization dawn on their faces, the understanding that this was no longer just a discussion about healthier meals, but a response to an urgent need. What kind of changes? Jacob's voice wavered slightly. Her heart sank as she met her children's eyes, feeling the burden of her truth permeate the thick atmosphere. The doctors suggested that certain foods might not be good for me anymore, she continued, her voice trembling. They pointed to things in our family cooking like refined sugars and too much processed food. I need to radically shift how we eat. Mom, we can still make it work, Sarah offered, her optimism shining like a beacon in the darkness. We just started figuring out the healthier recipes together. A flicker of hope ignited in Martha's heart. Yes, we can blend them, just like we talked about. It needs to be a priority, now more than ever. It's about more than just me. It's about us. Our future together. Martha felt a mixture of pride and sorrow wash over her as she considered the changes that lay ahead. She craved to inspire her children, but the thought of the struggle was daunting. I'm scared. The admission slipped from her lips before she could stop it. I'm worried that I won't do this right. That I'll let you down. No way, Mom, Jacob replied, a fierce determination settling in his voice. We're in this together. We can learn. This is just one more challenge for us to face as a family. Tears pricked Martha's eyes as she felt the warmth of their support wrap around her like a blanket. A bond solidified in shared fears and love. Julia, sensing the heavy shift, reached out and squeezed her mother's hand. I want you to be around, Mom. We'll figure it out. Please don't worry. As Martha wiped away a few stray tears, a wave of appreciation washed over her. Her children weren't just reacting to the news with sadness. They were ready to be her allies. How about we start fresh? Tomorrow? Sarah suggested, her voice gaining strength. Let us plan meals and try cooking together. Your traditions can still be part of it. We just have to adapt. The table filled once again with the hopeful energy of plans, laughter seeping back into their gathering. Martha felt lighter, buoyed by the love that swirled around her. She realized that while the road ahead would be challenging, this was not a solitary journey. But just as she began to feel the warmth of her hopes grow, the corners of her mind whispered the unanswerable questions. Would the changes be enough? And what if the stakes were higher than they appeared? My love for you all is the strongest thing I have, she confessed, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Mom, Jacob interrupted softly, we'll figure everything out together. That's what family does. With newfound resolve, Martha nodded, knowing that support would be their strongest arsenal against the uncertainties looming in the distance. As they resumed their brainstorming, she couldn't shake the thought that this journey was about more than health. It was about resilience, love, and transformation. But just as they began to plan their first meal, a sudden thought gripped Martha, seizing her breath. What if I'm not strong enough to face what's coming? Her family turned toward her, jaws clenched in determination. Every heartbeat echoed the same question. Were they truly ready to confront the reality that lay ahead? The morning sun poured through the kitchen window, spilling a warm glow on the worn wooden table. Martha stood in front of the fridge, surveying the contents like a soldier preparing for battle. A jumbled collection of old takeout containers and half-used sauces taunted her. She took a deep breath, the weight of her recent revelations pressing her down. Okay, we can do this, she whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. The kids had already gathered, rolling up their sleeves with an energy that made Martha's heart swell. Their eagerness was infectious. It fueled her determination. What's our first meal, Mom? Jacob asked, eyes sparkling with excitement. Martha turned to her phone, where the health blog Sarah had suggested was lit up with bright, enticing food pictures. How about we start with a colorful salad? We can make it our own. Sarah jolted in her seat, nodding. Yes, we can add nuts and seeds. They're full of good fats. As they gathered ingredients from the fridge, Martha noticed that even the simplest vegetables now seemed full of possibilities. The textures of fresh carrots and cucumbers felt different in her hands. She realized she was not just getting ready to cook. She was about to create something that could redefine their family's eating habits and their lives. The first cut of the knife through the crisp lettuce was like a declaration. Each chop and slice became a rhythm, creating a kind of music that replaced the tension from the previous evening. There was laughter and teasing over who could chop the fastest, while Julia danced around them, providing an impromptu performance. Hey, I'm the chef here. Martha laughed, trying to maintain an air of authority. Yet even she couldn't help but join in on the laughter. They crafted the salad together, Jacob mixing a homemade vinaigrette, while Sarah sliced into avocados like a master. Martha felt the bond strengthen as they tackled each small task, connecting through shared laughter and occasional spills. Mom, look, I made a heart. Julia squealed, presenting a couple of cut tomato halves arranged in a triumphant display. That moment, through the innocence of childhood creativity, replaced Martha's lingering fears with joy. That's the most beautiful heart I've ever seen, she told Julia, pulling her in for a hug. As they all sat around the table, the first bowl of their creation passed around. The vibrant colors sparkled under the kitchen lights. Martha hesitated for a moment before taking her first bite. It was a step into uncharted territory, a mixture of flavors reflecting their efforts. Wow, this is really good, Sarah exclaimed, her face lighting up. Each spoonful was a testament to what they could achieve together. A wave of gratitude washed over Martha, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a spark of hope. The road ahead looked less daunting now, filled with more laughter and love than she had anticipated. But just then, her phone buzzed with a notification, breaking through the delight. It was from the doctor's office. Martha's heart sank as she considered the possible meaning. Was this another reminder of her struggles? Or was it something that could bring more change into their lives? The question lingered in her mind, amplifying the recent tension. I'll be right back," she said, her voice small as she walked away from the table, leaving the smiles behind. In the solitude of the hallway, staring at the screen, she felt the familiar grip of fear tighten around her heart. What if this was the tipping point? What awaited her on the other side of that message? Was she prepared to face another challenge? Martha stood in the dim light of the hallway, her heart thudding in her chest. The notification loomed like a storm cloud. She swiped to unlock her phone, eyes scanning the message. It read, "Reminder, your appointment is scheduled for Tuesday. Please remember to bring your medical history." Just a reminder, she told herself. Nothing new. But why did her stomach twist? Perhaps it was the weight of everything the appointment could mean. More tests, more results, more uncertainty. She ripped her gaze away from the phone, unable to shake off the dread curling around her again. In a moment of defiance, she took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She could hear her children's laughter echoing in the kitchen, a beautiful distraction from the chaos in her mind. It was time to refocus. Stepping back into the room, she plastered a smile on her face, hoping to mask her internal struggle. "Sorry about that. Let us not let anything steal our joy, right?" she called out, her tone light and bright. Jacob and Sarah looked up, their faces sweet and expectant. Julia was still blissfully twirling around, lost in her own world of imagination. Martha watched her daughter, enraptured by childhood wonder, and for a moment, she felt the creeping anxiety wane. "Who wants to make dessert next?" she asked with renewed enthusiasm. Sarah's eyes sparkled with the challenge. "We could poke some holes in the apples and stuff them with oats and nuts." "Yeah, and cinnamon," Jacob added, bouncing in his seat as if he'd just cracked the code of the universe. In this small moment, Martha felt a flicker of strength ignite inside her. The kids were resilient, bright lights guiding her through the fog. They could face whatever came next together, and right now, she wanted them to feel this sense of empowerment, this unity. As they rummaged through the pantry for ingredients, the kitchen filled with the sweet aroma of possibilities. She guided them in preparing the apples, showing them how to scoop out the cores, and asking them to mix the oats and nuts with honey. "This is going to be so good," Julia exclaimed, her hands a sticky mess from mixing. Martha laughed, genuinely touched by the sight of her little girl's enthusiasm. She didn't care about the underlying issues swirling in her mind. All that mattered was these moments of connection and joy with her kids. They were the grounding force in her life, and that realization felt like a warm hug. But as they popped the stuffed apples into the oven, the weight on Martha's heart returned. The doctor's appointment still loomed, a specter in the background. She had always been the stalwart protector of her family, the one who held everything together. But now, she felt frayed at the edges, like a thread threatening to unravel. "What if I can't manage this?" she whispered to herself, just loud enough to catch Jack's attention. "Mom, what's wrong?" he asked, the concern in his voice a gentle reminder of their bond. "Just thinking," she replied, shaking her head as if to physically shake off the doubt. "About the doctor?" Sarah ventured, watching her mother closely. Martha hesitated, the truth weighing heavy on her tongue. But there was something inherently true about sharing these fears. "I guess I'm just nervous about the tests." "It's silly, I know." "It's not silly, Mom. We all get nervous," Sarah reassured her, squeezing her hand. "But we're in this together, right?" Martha nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest despite the swirling anxieties. They were truly a team, and sharing her honest feelings seemed to shift the balance back toward the light. As the oven timer chimed, Martha felt a sense of impending dread mixed with resilience. Maybe facing fears was just another step in this cooking journey of life. Maybe what she needed was the courage to lean on her family. But as they gathered around, a sudden thought pierced through. What if the appointment revealed something she wasn't ready to face? She took a deep breath, forcing herself to push those thoughts away once more. For now, she had her children and this moment. But as the timer dinged, a dark shadow danced at the edge of her mind. What awaited her at that appointment? Would it change everything yet again? The oven door creaked open, unleashing a wave of warm, cinnamon-infused air that wrapped around them like a cozy blanket. The apples had transformed into caramelized treasures, glistening with honey as they spilled over the edges. Martha's heart swelled just a little, relishing the sight of her children's faces lighting up in pure bliss. "All right, who's ready?" she asked, her voice infused with excitement as she pulled the baking dish from the oven. She set it on the counter and let them grab their plates, watching with pride as they descended upon the warm apples like little hungry hawks. "First bite," Julia declared, her eyes bright with anticipation. She reached for the biggest apple, her fingers sticky with remnants of dough and honey. "Wait for me," Jacob exclaimed, elbowing gently for his turn. Martha chuckled, shaking her head. All right, everyone gets a piece." She served them their portions, the apples warm and fragrant, while the sound of their happy chatter filled every corner of the kitchen. In those moments, the looming uncertainty of her appointment felt miles away. They laughed, shared stories about their day, and even argued over who got the last bite of filling. It felt like home, and somehow, amidst that chaos, Martha could breathe a little easier. But as they settled down to eat, she could feel the smile fading from her face even if just a bit. Thoughts of the appointment crept back in, like shadows filing into a brightly lit room. "Mom," Sarah's voice cut through, like a soothing balm for her frazzled mind. "Do you think the doctor will give you good news?" Martha paused, the spoon hanging midair. She wanted nothing more than to say yes, to give her daughter a reassuring smile that everything would be okay. But the truth was, she couldn't guarantee that. A lump formed in her throat. "I hope so, honey," she finally managed to say, her voice softer than she intended. "But sometimes good news is mixed with bad, you know?" Jacob's enthusiasm dimmed just a little. "Can't you just, I don't know, tell him to make it all good news?" Martha sighed, her heart aching from the innocence of his claim. If only it were that easy. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken worries. Julia, ever the spirited one, began to twirl her fork, the sound of metal clinking against porcelain breaking the heaviness. "Can we have a dance party after dinner?" she proposed, her eyes sparkling. "Absolutely. We can dance our worries away," Martha replied, trying to muster up the energy to embrace that joy. "Yeah, we can pretend we're in a movie or something," Sarah added, a gleeful smile returning to her face. As they continued to munch on dessert, Martha's heart ached with a mix of gratitude and dread. Could she really muster the strength to face the unknown waiting for her on Tuesday? The last bite of the stuffed apple tasted bittersweet, each chew a reminder of the joy and the shadows lurking beneath the surface. With dinner finished and plates cleared, Martha led her children into the living room. They cranked up the music, and soon the sound of laughter and stomping feet overflowed the house. For a moment, everything felt right, her children's carefree spirits lifting the weight she had carried all day. As Julia scrambled onto the couch, spinning around to lead an impromptu dance, Martha felt drawn into her daughter's whirlwind of light and laughter. She joined in, trying to shake off her worries. But with every sway and twirl, the question lingered: would Tuesday bring revelation or devastation? "What if," she whispered under her breath as she caught her breath in between spins, "I'm not prepared for what might come?" In all the chaos, it was Sarah's gasp that brought Martha back to reality. "Mom, look at Julia. She can do a backflip." Martha turned just in time to see Julia launching herself excitedly off the couch. "Wait." It was a desperate plea, a mother's instinct screaming for caution. Then it all slowed to a heartbeat, her mind racing. Would she be able to pick up the pieces, whatever they might be, if her daughter fell? And if not, would she be ready for whatever truth awaited her? Just as Julia was ready to leap into the air, the music faded for a moment as she held her breath, her heart pounding in sync with the movement around her. What balance would she find when she stepped into the doctor's office? Those thoughts hovered above her like a heavy fog, waiting to unfold in the next moment. The laughter erupted again as Julia spun through the air, her backflip more daring than Martha could have anticipated. The sight filled her with a mix of exhilaration and anxiety, her heart racing faster than the joyful tune playing in the background. "Sweetheart, be careful," she called out, her words hanging trembling in the air. But Julia landed gracefully, her bright eyes glimmering with delight, unaware of the worry that had crept over her mother's face. Jacob and Sarah cheered, and for an instant, Martha's heart soared with pride. They were kids. They felt invincible. Perhaps she should too. Can I try? Jacob asked, eyes wide with admiration for his sister. The way he admired Julia, with that innocent heart connected to dreams, made her proud. But did he really understand the risks? Maybe just a little less crazy? Martha suggested, crossing her fingers that caution would be enough. Ah, come on, Mom. It's just a flip. Jacob protested, his youthful confidence bubbling. Martha turned her gaze to Sarah, hoping she would chime in with caution, but Sarah merely giggled, tugging Julia for another round. The room filled with an explosion of energy, a swirling dance of laughter that felt like a bubble of warmth in the face of uncertainty. Let us turn this into a contest, Julia declared, setting up a makeshift gym in the living room that included pillows and blankets as safety nets. Best trick wins. Come on, Mom, join us. Martha hesitated, internally grappling with her responsibilities and fears. Could indulging in this moment really distract from what awaited her? Swallowing her anxiety, she took a deep breath and let herself be swept into the spontaneous revelry. Okay, but I'm just going to show you a classic. She laughed, her body moving before her mind could weigh in. She executed a simple stretch and a light hop that sent her kids into fits of laughter, their giggles lifting her spirit and pouring joy into her veins as they took turns performing silly tricks. Escaping into this pocket of innocence felt strangely refreshing. In that little whirlwind, the dark thoughts of her upcoming appointment felt muted, as if a protective shield enveloped her. But just as she began to embrace the fun fully, her phone buzzed on the counter, dragging her back to reality. A message from the doctor's office blinked ominously on the screen. Her heart sank. Mom, you okay? Sarah's question pulled her out of her daze. Yeah, just, thinking about some things, Martha replied, forcing a smile as her heart continued to thump loudly. Let us keep dancing, Julia announced, spinning her mother into the music again. And for a moment, Martha let herself go, letting the rhythm drown out the phone's beckoning voice. After several rounds filled with laughter and ridiculous tumbles, the flurry calmed. The kids settled down for some well-deserved water, and Martha felt a heaviness creep back into her chest. Are you sure you're all right, Mom? Sarah asked, worry lining her innocent brow. Martha crouched to meet her daughter's gaze. Sweetie, I'm just thinking about the future, you know? But you're here now. Julia piped up, her face bright with youthful optimism. And we're having fun. Yes, we are, Martha said, her heart warming at Julia's reminder. And that's what matters most, I assent it. Can we play again? Jacob's voice trembled with eager anticipation. Of course, but I'll sit out this time. I'm more of a cheerleader, I think, Martha said with a wink, settling back on the couch. She clapped and cheered as the kids resumed their antics, grateful for this fleeting moment of joy amidst a storm of uncertainty. As they tumbled and shouted, Martha's fingers hovered over her phone, grappling with the need to check it. Every pulse of the buzzing device reminded her of the looming appointment. What would happen? What if it changed everything? At that moment, she made a decision. Maybe I can face whatever's waiting for me after I get through tonight, she thought, watching her children glow with uninhibited laughter. But just as hope began to bloom again, she heard a loud thud followed by a piercing cry. Julia had stumbled, her face crumpling in shock before the world seemed to freeze around them. Mom, Jacob yelled, darting toward his sister, a whirl of chaos descending again. And there it was, the striking reminder that life could change in an instant. Martha jumped to her feet, the noise of the world around her fading as she rushed to her daughter's side. Could she really face the truth when it was already unfolding right before her eyes? What balance would she discover in this moment of crisis? Would she rise to the challenge, or would her own fears hold her captive once again? Martha's heart raced as she reached Julia, who sat on the floor, cradling her arm. A sharp cry had transformed into soft whimpers, and the sight sent a fresh wave of panic through her veins. She knelt beside her daughter, the chaotic symphony of laughter replaced by concerned whispers. Sweetheart, did you fall on your arm? She asked gently, trying to keep her voice steady. It was a fierce battle between worry and the need to soothe. Julia nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I tried to do what you did, but Her small voice cracked. Let me see, Martha urged softly, carefully taking Julia's arm in her hands. As she inspected it, she felt her throat tightening in dread. What if something was really wrong? The kids circled them, their faces painted with concern. Jacob bit his lip, while Sarah's eyes darted between her brother and sister, emotional turmoil overriding their previous excitement. Mom, is she going to be okay? Jacob's voice was small, pleading. Martha forced herself to breathe. She just needs a moment, buddy, she said, planting a kiss on Julia's forehead. You're so brave, honey. Let us see if we can make it feel better. Martha's soft voice interrupted the whirlwind, drawing her gaze to Sarah, whose hands were fidgeting as if she could hardly manage the weight of her worry. It's just a scrape, right, Mom? She asked, her innocent hope lingering in the air. Absolutely, Martha replied, trying to project confidence, even as her stomach churned. But let us get some ice and check if you can move it. Okay, Julia whispered, her voice shaky but steady. Slowly, she flexed her fingers, testing the movement while vividly clinging to the comfort of her mother's presence. Martha stood, her feet moving almost on instinct as she headed to the freezer. The familiar hum of the refrigerator felt oddly grounding. She rummaged for a bag of frozen peas, her mind racing through every worst-case scenario she could imagine. Just yesterday, she was watching her children spin carefree through the air. Returning to Julia's side, Martha sat again, holding the ice pack with a gentle hand. You know, Martha said, trying to break the tension, these are great for keeping your food fresh. Very important in case we ever have to turn into cave people. Julia managed a weak smile, her tears mixing with chuckles. It was a small victory that fueled Martha's hope. Jacob and Sarah joined in, mimicking expressions of fear and bravery, ready to face the wild world of imaginary cave life together. Mom, can I still try again? Jacob asked, a spark of daring in his voice. Martha raised an eyebrow. Do you think you should? Maybe give your sister a chance to recover. Huh? Yeah, I can wait. Jacob turned to Julia. I'll let you go first next time. You just gotta keep practicing. Julia grinned, her heart swelling with the encouragement of her brother. Despite the situation, Martha felt a warm glow of pride. Later, once Julia was settled with a movie, her arm propped up comfortably, the atmosphere shifted back to the cozy chaos of family life. Yet as Martha nestled into the couch beside her, her phone buzzed again. The thrill of the joyful noise faded as dread bubbled back to the surface. The message blinked on the screen like an alarm. She could feel it pulling at her. An appointment loomed large in her mind like dark clouds overtaking a sunny day. Did she still have it in her to rise and face whatever it contained? Mom. Julia looked up at her, eyes still bright but weary. Will you be okay too? Martha paused, forced to weigh the enormity of her child's question. We're all going to be okay, sweetheart, she finally answered, though the weight of her own uncertainty lingered heavy on her heart. As she hugged Julia tight, a sudden thought struck her. Was it possible that the balance she needed was already here with her family at her side, despite the looming shadows? Would facing the future mean leaning into those bright, sparkling moments they shared? But just then, the phone buzzed once more, a straightforward invitation to face the truth. Feeling the weight of the moment, Martha wondered, could this be the turning point? How much courage would it take to take that step when the world itself felt so unpredictable? And before she could delve deeper into that uncertainty, the sound of little feet echoed from the hallway, disrupting her spiraling thoughts. Guys, let us play charades. Sarah's voice rang out, beckoning everyone into a whirlwind of laughter once again. But what if stepping into this new game meant something greater? Something Martha hadn't fully understood yet? Martha laughed as Sarah dashed into the living room, her infectious enthusiasm pulling everyone from their worries. Julia's small giggles rang out, echoing with a sense of relief. Choices between worries and a little girl's joy felt like a tug of war, but the joy had taken the upper hand for now. Charades, huh? Who's going first? Jacob asked, bouncing on his toes, his excitement palpable. I want to, Sarah shouted, raising her hand, her eyes sparkling with determination. I'll go first. I've got a good one. As Sarah began her performance, her exaggerated movements sending them into fits of laughter. Martha felt warmth unfurling in her chest, a reminder of how easily they could shift from fear to joy. It was like they were weaving a tapestry of moments, each smile a thread, each burst of laughter a color brightening the fabric of their lives. After Sarah acted out a cat, Jacob jumped in next, mimicking a dog. Julia watched with a big grin, her fears fading as her brother and sister filled the room with silliness. "You're so good at this," Julia cheered, her voice gaining strength. Martha's heart swelled. Julia seemed to forget her pain, if only for a moment. But as the game continued, Martha's mind drifted back to the appointment that lingered like a storm cloud in the corner of her mind. She felt her phone vibrate again, a jarring reminder of duties and realities waiting outside their cozy bubble. "Mom, your turn." Jacob's voice snapped her out of her thoughts, and she forced her mind back to the vibrant scene before her. How could she let the shadows invade this space, even for a second? All right, here I go." She exaggerated her movements, pretending to swim like a fish. The kids burst into laughter as she flopped awkwardly on the floor. Both Julia and Sarah copied her, diving and splashing in their imaginary ocean. Suddenly, a wave of realization washed over Martha. This spontaneous happiness was what she truly needed, the essence of hope wrapped in the laughter of her children. It had the power to dispel dark clouds, even if just temporarily. "Martha, you look like a real fish," Sarah chirped between giggles, and Martha couldn't help but chuckle louder. Their joy danced around her like a warm blanket, reminding her of what really mattered. The game progressed with silly guesses, dramatic actions, and gleeful cheers. Each round pulled her further away from anxieties. As she reveled in the moment, the phone buzzed again. She was torn. Should she check it, or could she resist for just a little longer? She took a deep breath, soaking in her children's laughter, and for a moment, she let it drift away. Maybe she didn't need to know just yet. Maybe right now was enough. And then, as if fate interjected into their playful rhythm, there came a knock on the door, a sound that echoed with an ominous weight amidst their joy. The three kids paused, eyes darting toward the sound, and so did Martha's heartbeat, racing once again. "Who could that be?" Julia whispered, concern flickering in her eyes. Martha stood, glancing from her children to the door, uncertainty creeping back in. The laughter faded, replaced by a collective breath holding what awaited them outside. Did they need to brace themselves once more? With a hesitant hand, she reached for the door, unaware that unlocking it might unveil more than just a visitor. As Martha turned the doorknob, her heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. The weight of the unknown hung heavily in the air, thickening the atmosphere. Her children stood behind her, eyes wide with curiosity and worry. When the door swung open, the blinding afternoon sunlight spilled through the doorway, casting long shadows into their living room. Standing on the other side was a familiar face, their neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, a sweet elderly lady with a warm smile. She held a basket of fresh vegetables, vibrant and colorful, as if the earth itself was paying tribute to the transformative moments that had been unfolding. "Hello, dear," Mrs. Jenkins greeted, her voice like a gentle breeze. "I brought over some zucchini and bell peppers from my garden. I figured you might enjoy a few healthy recipes." Martha's breath caught in her throat. The universe seemed to align in that moment. Here was a tangible reminder of community, kindness, and the power of connection. A sudden warmth spread from her heart, blooming into something bright and radiant. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Jenkins," she said, her voice full of gratitude. "Of course. I thought of you when I made my vegetable medley yesterday," Mrs. Jenkins replied. "Cooking is all about experimenting, isn't it?" Martha's heart swelled as her children gathered around. "We were just talking about how to incorporate healthier meals into our meals," Sarah chimed in, shooting her siblings wide-eyed glances. "Wonderful. Why don't you come over one day, and we can cook together? I have some incredible recipes," Mrs. Jenkins suggested, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Martha felt a surge of hope. The balance she sought wasn't just within her family, it extended into their community, forming a tapestry of support and love. A glimmer of possibilities flickered in her heart. "Yes, I would love that," Martha replied, realizing the importance of the moment. As Mrs. Jenkins waved goodbye and continued down the path, Martha turned back to her children, fueled by a beam of inspiration. What do you think? Should we plan a family cooking night soon? Yes, Julia exclaimed, her arm now bandaged, but her spirit unwavering. We can make things fun and tasty. That sounds like a perfect idea, Mom, Jacob added, his voice filled with renewed fire. We can experiment just like Mrs. Jenkins said. Martha's heart soared. Maybe change didn't mean losing their roots. It meant taking them along for the ride. The laughter resumed as they began to brainstorm dinner ideas that would combine the familiar with the newfound creativity. Suddenly, as if the air shifted, Martha felt a wave of clarity wash over her. The imminent doctor's appointment no longer carried the same weight. It was part of her journey, not the destination. Each vegetable, each healthy recipe, brought her closer to understanding that there could be joy, even amidst uncertainty. As the hour drew on, and the kitchen filled once more with the sounds of laughter and eager planning, she felt their bond strengthen. Together, we've got this, she declared, looking into her children's eyes, feeling the power of unity swell in her chest. Absolutely, Jacob responded, and they all raised their hands in a cheer. All right then, future chefs, let us make the best meals our family has ever seen. Martha's voice rang with the resolute joy that echoed every corner of the room. The sun had begun to set, casting a golden hue across the sky, and for the first time in days, Martha felt lighter. With each heartfelt laugh they shared, with each idea they tossed about, she was opening her heart not just to new recipes, but to new possibilities. And as she glanced out the window, with her children bustling all around her, she knew that whatever awaited her at the doctor's office would no longer define her. The path forward was one they would journey together, hand in hand. Saw-stained aprons and all that the room brimming with optimism danced and swayed. The truth anchored firmly in her heart. Their love would always lead them through the storm. So take courage, family and friends. Embrace your loved ones today. Seek that balance, share your laughter, and don't hesitate to face your fears together. Now, what are you waiting for? Subscribe immediately to join us as we navigate life's ups and downs in our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to help us spread the love and motivate others. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this heartwarming resolution. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. You need to be part of this journey. Show your support today. Don't wait, not even one more second.